broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Paranormal Experienced. I am Kat Hobson, your host, and I am joined tonight by Bobby Osterhaudt. We are having a discussion, folks. This is the coolest thing, and we are so running out of time. This is going to have to happen again because we share so many similar interests and research topics. But I want to go back to Corey Goode. And if you don't know who that is, please do Google him. It's Coreygoode. Corey Goode. You can see him on Gaia. I saw him at Contact in the Desert. He is definitely fully capable of having his own Dos Equis commercial as the most interesting man in the world. And talk about him a little, Bobby.
Well, I've listened to his disclosure as to his role in the extraterrestrial phenomenon, and not only his, but Emery Smith's as well. Mm-hmm. And it just blows my mind the things that these guys are talking about that are actually happening and have been happening for years. I mean, when you're talking that there are all these subsurface bases in this country throughout the world, and these highways, super highways that are all underground. Like I said, they could drive a truck from California to New York, all underground. Working on spaceships, working on craft, alien craft, populating the solar system other than Earth with over 1 million humans. I mean, this is some amazing stuff. This is what fascinates me. And this is why I'm so eager and hopeful for, this big disclosure that's supposed to happen in July. All that we're getting now is dibs and drabs of what's to come. I mean, it's like the preparation of here we are, so it's not such a big blow. I mean, like with the release of the information of all these governments on how they are, yes, we are chasing these UFOs around. We see them. We're releasing the videos. All this soft disclosure is taking place. Hopefully will lead into the big one that's coming in. Now, I don't know much about extraterrestrials or the UFO phenomenon. I mean, I dabbed into it a little bit because of the show that was supposed to happen. So, but it has my interest. And I mean, the extraordinary stories from those two guys, Corey Goode and Emery Smith, and they seem to corroborate each other. I actually would sit there and try to catch him out there with, a falsehood, or how they might have to change their story to fix it, or forget they said this and go to that. I mean, I sat there hour after hour after hour watching these guys, trying to catch them tripping up, and I still haven't been able to do that. They are amazing people with an amazing story. And what amazes me is the fact that they're even being allowed to do that. So it must be some sort of soft disclosure,
right, to
prepare us for the big disclosure. And it's not just going to be, like I said, it's not going to just be like, yeah, here we are. I think it's going to be a very integrated disclosure where extraterrestrials will become part of our communities, part of our society, and intermingle with us. That's the kind of disclosure. And it's going to be major, according to these people. It's going to be major. It's going to be probably the answer to a lot of things. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. But yeah, these are phenomenal stories coming from two guys that that claim to be, or claim to have been, so caught up into governmental dealings with extraterrestrials,
Well,
other
basically,
beings.
space warriors.
Right. Oh, some of them
When
were.
people are
Some of
talking
them
about
were.
Space Command, well,
Right.
that's them.
But actually, yeah, and apparently there were battles on Mars by different alien species. I mean, there's a whole slew of things going on that we just don't know. And but like I said, they're slowly disclosing all of this to us. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like the biggest teaser in the world.
I know. Giorgio Tsoukalos says we are disclosure because we're not censored. Nobody tells us that's too controversial to discuss, but they're discussing ancient aliens.
Right.
Corey and Emery and these people are discussing current
Now,
situations.
Right. Exactly. And it's kind of phenomenal, actually. And their stories are dead on with each other. And like I said, me being the skeptic that I am, I had to sit here and see that they would trip up, and they don't trip up.
They don't.
I mean, they do not trip up. So that's a big sign to me. And everybody has experienced something, I think, and either they didn't realize what they were looking at, because I live on top of a mountain that's famous for UFO activity. The Pine Bush area, it's one of the biggest hot spots in the country, or on the East Coast, I should say. Talk to my friends like Tom Conwell, who document this stuff. There's not very many actual call-ins or reportings. That's because people have lived with it for a long time. They just don't call it in. But it's a famous hotspot in the Northeast, Pine Bush, New York. And our mountain, the mountain that I live on, is supposed to be the attraction to these extraterrestrials. Just for an example, I went to this UFO meeting before we came down here to Florida. It's like early summer, but there's a lot of weird things going on the mountain. Like, I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard this humming coming from my living room, and I'm like, what is this? And it was right outside my living room window, and I didn't see nothing. There's no lights, but there was this vibration. And I go to the UFO meeting, and I'm like, is anybody else? And everybody there was saying the energy is shifting. They're getting ready to disclose. And funny enough, I have an invisible fence for the dogs on the mountain. That thing kept going off, telling me there was a break somewhere in the line. I had this guy up there like 5 times trying to find a break, couldn't find a break. But yet the alarm kept going off saying there was a break. And it finally stopped, but it was during this time of this big energy shift that was supposed to be taking place. Also on my mountain, which is kind of coincidental, because of the energy on this mountain, there are huge Buddhist communities now that are establishing on the mountain, where I live. So, is that a coincidence? I don't know. It's the energy that this mountain gives off. It's amazing. So, I'm really hopeful and waiting for this disclosure. I think it would be an awesome thing. What it has to do with the afterlife, I don't know. I mean, it could have some answers. We do know that when we leave this body, our conscious lives on. I mean, our energy lives on. Energy never had a beginning and it never dies. So it's got to go somewhere. Does it go there? Does it go into a dimension that actually you can be you again, but in a different form or whatever it is? It's in another dimension. Will it bring meaning to what we're studying right now? This whole afterlife phenomenon, this phenomenon of ghosts, and I think it'll be interesting to find out.
I think it will too. In your opinion, is this going to be an ET-led disclosure, or our government's going to have any input at all?
Well, I think, in my opinion, it has to be that it has to be a shared disclosure, not just from our government, but I think it's going to be on a world level, on the world stage. It has to be. We can't be the only ones experiencing this. The rest of the world must be in some way, shape, or form as well. They must be working with all the governments in the world. I can't see them just working with the United States. They're interested in planetary stuff, not just pieces of land.
Well, they're interested in universal things, I would think, because if it were the return of the Anunnaki, for instance, well, according to Sumerian texts translated by Senshin, and I don't know that anyone actually validated that, or if I'm not familiar enough to know if there was a schooling of thought relevant to those translations. But, the Anunnaki were not that good to humans. So, is that going to be a repetitive cycle?
If you listen to some of these ufologists and people who study extraterrestrials, there are up to 57 different species of aliens.
Yep.
So who were the Anunnaki? What species were they? Were they the supreme ones? Were they the ruling species? I don't know. So also, I have a very good friend who channels this newer, higher vibrational type of alien that just arrived here, and who is preparing for this big, disclosure that's supposed to happen in July. But I don't know. It's got to be. There's so many different. I don't think we can, just lay it at the table of one species that's going to command all. I think it's going to be intergalactical, if you will.
Yes. I had a man offer me a galactic passport when I was in California, and I got his name and number.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just in case.
I was asked a question during this pilot that we were filming. I got asked a question, well, what would you do? If the aliens showed themselves to you, they land in front of you, they come. And I would say, what I'd ask them? I'd say, can I take that thing for a spin around the solar system real quick? Because that's what I want to do. I would love to get in one of those things and just take a ride around the solar system, just to play. But
you've got to. You got to open it up.
You have to. You got to see what it's got.
That's right. Open that baby up and just let it show you.
Yeah. So, but hey, and how that all relates to afterlife survival, I think, will be part of the answers we'll get to a lot of things.
Yes.
If it isn't through extraterrestrial training or teaching, if they would review, disclose themselves to us, live among us, show us the ways, or through our very smart people on this earth, human beings that are so close, I'd say within 100 years of finding out and solving the question of the theory for everything.
Yes.
Einstein's theory of everything. So, and I think the afterlife has a lot to play in with that. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's not true, but that's just the way I see it. That's the way I call it. It's just my opinion.
Works for me.
Totally wrong, but I think that once they figure out what's once they get the math right, I think that's going to open the floodgates.
And it's playing out. It's coming together. But you know what? We're out of time.
Holy moly!
I know. So I need you to tell people how to find you.
Well, you can always email me at trashman@hvc.rr.com or go on Facebook, Bobby Osterhaudt. There I am. And if you want to get a hold